I said in my previous video from 2 weeks ago that Joe Biden's administration has had one of its worst weeks ever, and this is probably going to be a daily occurrence? Well, I didn't need to wait too long before another one of these situations occurred, especially when it comes to immigration as well as the legislature, specifically within Congress. First, with the issue of immigration. I don't need to remind you about how badly the situation on the border is. Already, there's been a lot of YouTubers who are mentioning that this has been one of the highest peaks of illegal immigration thus far, probably even more than during Barack Obama's presidency. All thanks to the fact that Joe Biden decided to basically lay out the doormat, the welcome carpet for illegal immigrants to come into this country. And why not? After all, he stopped on his first day on the construction of the border wall. Already he's not really committing too much in terms of prosecuting illegal immigrants. Why not? He's easily allowing illegal immigrants from everywhere, from places like Mexico or Guatemala to come into the United States. And ever since the November election, they have been cheering him on. The illegal immigrants have been cheering Biden on because they know that he is their main ticket to get into the United States. It has gone so far that there has been new issues in regards to this is thanks to the Epic Times, if you guys want to check out the article in the description below, of illegal immigrants renting children just to cross into our border. Renting children. Can we check that out as another part of Joe Biden's failures? Basically, he's just allowing the cartel to get away with human trafficking. All because he's not allowing the enforcement of the border or even the building of the border wall. Because it's racist. Or is he? As a matter of fact, Joe Biden has committed this is pretty funny, and I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of you guys already heard about this, but Joe Biden has actually said he's considering restarting the border wall because of how badly the situation is. This is funny in a whole lot of ways. One, in the most obvious sense. Joe Biden is unintentionally admitting that Donald Trump is correct, that border walls work. I mean, after all, it kind of makes sense, especially with a lot of Silicon Valley people or just regular people in general, just building fences all around and just keeping a major boundary from people to prevent them from getting into their land or property or whatever. I mean, again, like I said before, Silicon has a major knows this part pretty well, even though that they proclaim that it's all racist when it's about illegal immigrants, even though that they obviously do not practice what they preach. But I'm digressing. This admittedly shows Joe Biden that he's already admitting that Trump is right on this. I mean, I 100% think that it's reluctant, but at this point, he's screwed either way. But I think this is probably the worst decision he finds. Let me explain here. In the political sense, this means that Joe Biden is wounded. Not in terms of like not in terms of like he's actually been hit or something. No, absolutely not. I mean, there's already blood in the water and people are smelling it. Joe Biden has admitted his weakness. He's admitted that the previous administration was right on this issue the whole time. Now throughout his supposed administration thus far, he's already been through his White House press secretary Sasky, been trying to put as much blame on the Trump administration as possible in regards to in regards to illegal immigration, despite the fact that honestly the Trump administration has done pretty well with the border, thanks to the fact that with the border wall and heavy enforcement with ICE as well as the U.S. military to prevent human trafficking and illegal immigration, it has actually gone down thanks to that. But regardless, back to the point at hand. With Joe Biden admitting that the previous administration was correct, this shows a lot of weakness. This shows that he's not really in control of the situation. And when someone such as the president shows weakness, it's obvious there's a full lack of confidence in his leadership. Not saying that there wasn't already, but considering what he said, with the aspect of considering to restart the construction of the border wall, that speaks massive volumes in regards to the political atmosphere of the United States as well as all of Congress. Because let's be honest, this is a very cutthroat situation. Donald Trump is a lot of things. He's pretty much been. You can say that he's been a bully, a major asshole, and I would have to agree with you. But in that aspect, the reason why he does that is because in both the corporate as well as the political world, you need to show strength. If you show even an ounce of weakness, you're done. You're done. You're screwed. People will backstab you, and they will eat you up like a freaking fish in the ocean to a shark. That, I believe, is what's going to happen with Joe Biden. And in a way, it's already happening. Because already in the legislature, and I mentioned this before in my previous video, Joe Manchin as well as Kristen Sinema of Arizona, both of them happen to be Democrats. They're against the idea of ending the filibuster. They are heavily against this. While a lot of senators as well as House of course congressmen and women who happen to be Democrats are going along with this, Joe Manchin and potentially Kirsten Sinema, they are not so much in tune with this. And considering that, here's the thing. Joe Biden needs at least 50 senators on his side. He cannot lose a single one. Because with 50 senators, this would be able to break it to a tie, and Kamala Harris, our supposed vice president, will have to break that tie. And of course, that will be going along with Joe Biden's favor. That would mean that, let's just say hypothetically, that Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema go along with Democrats as well. H.R. 1 would pass, the infrastructure bill would pass, etc., etc., etc. Even the gun control situation would pass. Joe Manchin is smart. Joe Manchin is from a state that happens to be fully solid Republican. He cannot screw this up. He knows that if he continues to be with his constituents, his seat is safe. The Democrats cannot primary him. If they do primary him, he could just simply switch parties. He'll be like Jeff Van Drew in New Jersey. He managed to win. I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Manchin would actually go so far as to actually consider doing that, if that were the case. With that in effect, he is basically the kingmaker in terms of legislative politics. Without Joe Manchin and many other senators as well. Again, Kirsten Sinema is also a major player in this. Although I would say that Joe Manchin is much bigger, especially with his with his unique situation being a Democrat from West Virginia, a very conservative state. Bills can die if he does not give his full support. Again, in this situation, Joe Biden and the Democrats need 50 senators. All you need to do, all the Republicans need to do, just get one. At least. That way, there's no tiebreak. There is no passing of a bill whatsoever, at least in the Senate. In the House, it's going to be it wouldn't. In the House, it's kind of a lost cause until 2022, which I'm on board with Sticks, Hex, and Hammer with that being a red wave. I mean, after all, despite the entire situation with 2020, the Republicans still gained ground. They managed to gain at least 13 seats in the House of Representatives. I would not be surprised if they gain more, especially with how AOC is still taking up the spotlight and how Nancy Pelosi is very unpopular, and especially with Joe Biden and so many others as well. This honestly puts fear in the Democrats, because already their entire leadership base is I don't want to say fractured, because that's not entirely true. While there is still some there's that some of that factionalism within the Democratic Party still going on. It's more about showing weakness, because apparently the hold of the Democratic Party, at least when it comes to the neoliberals like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, etc., that's kind of been starting to wane. And it's mainly due to the fact that they cannot evolve with the times. Of course, they're not listening to the fellows like AOC and Bernie Sanders with good reason, because I'm pretty sure even a lot of Democrats do not like the idea of the far left trying to get into politics. Although I will say, they are definitely trying. They're definitely trying and making major gains. After all, there was a major socialist win within the state of Nevada. But they haven't necessarily evolved. It's either, at this point with the Democratic Party, they're in the fork road with two different roads. There isn't a third one where, at least as far as I know, because with the current current faces of the Democratic Party, there aren't any new faces whatsoever. As far as I know, only people like AOC and Ilhan Omar, and those guys are pretty unpopular. Not just with their politics, but just with their general likability. But currently the Democrats are in a fork road. Either they can continue on their path of neoliberalism and the establishment, which basically renders them completely useless and basically boring in the sense of politics without it having new ideas, or they could go to the far left socialist route that apparently still no one will like, and it will not allow them to win elections. Either way, the Democrats are in a lose-lose situation, from what I've seen. For the Republicans, on the other hand, they are currently having to deal with basically a major cleanup within their own party itself. Right now, Senator Murkowski of Alaska is being primaried. I know that in Alaska they changed up their Senate race to make it a rank and file election, but nonetheless, the fact that she was censored and there is a threat to her being primaried, and with her opponent actually having a double-digit lead, speaks within the Republican Party that the establishment is being chipped away. There's already a growing faction of right-wing populism that's going on within the Republican Party, and this is something that I'm pretty sure the establishment is worried about. But it does represent that the Republicans are growing with the times, something that the Democrats are not doing. Either way, the Democrats are in trouble. I'm willing to bet that the Republican Party may actually take back the House. The Senate may be a whole nother issue. Take a look on that to see whether what kind of Senate seats are actually in the open of being primaried, as well as which ones happen to be in swing states. But nonetheless, there is a chance of that. All the Republicans need is just one seat, and they will be the majority in the Senate. I mean, but and already this poses potential problems for Joe Biden, our supposed president. He has already spilled blood, he's already shown weakness, and he's shown a failure of leadership. Not just in terms of immigration, or as I said before in my previous video, in terms of other domestic as well as foreign policy, but also in enacting legislation. Why do you think he's issuing these new executive orders over gun control? Why do you think he's trying to establish commissions for packing the Supreme Court? He knows, and he's afraid. Or at the very least, the person behind him, behind Dementia Joe, is afraid. And they should be. Because he's not only is he very unpopular, this may potentially prove a disaster for the Democrats as a whole. Maybe not now, but definitely in the future, at some point. My name is Noah Meehan on The Art Truth. Please post your comments down below, like this video, subscribe, and share with your friends. Also, if you have any issues regarding my videos, such as how I speak, how I frame my videos, etc., please post them down in the comment section down below or directly message me. Thank you.
Almost